Now then, crew, and welcome back to the Andy Mechanic YouTube channel. And yes, the old Honda CB750 K2 is back on the hoist. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to do the valve clearances. Well, the first thing we should do is take a quick look at the service manual from Honda, the original manual, and see what they say on how to perform this particular task, because it's really important we get it absolutely bang on. And the reason for that is it can affect engine performance, starting, running, power output, all that kind of stuff. Engines are not happy if the valve clearances aren't correct. And further down the line, I've got to synchronize the carburetors on this bike, so it's critical we get this done before we can do that, which will be another video sometime in the future. Right, here we go. Used.
You don't paint something without warping.
Honestly. So, in the tune-up section, which is group 18 of the service manual, and all these service manuals, or the sections of the service manual, are available now on a Google Drive, and I'll put you the link in the description of this video. Okay, so 5, adjust valve tappet clearance, page 174. So let's scroll down, just trying to work around the camera. Let's scroll down and try and find 174. 177. I think they've put it under periodic maintenance, haven't they? Yes, there we go, engine tune-up. So, page 181, adjust valve tappet clearance. There, look. 181. So let's scroll down to that. Where are we now? 181. Can't be far off. 180. 181. There we go. Look. So, 7. Adjust valve tappet clearance. Drain the remaining gasoline from the tank, or turn the tank valve, tank fuel tap valve basically, to the off position, and plug up the outlets of the fuel line to prevent gasoline from leaking. Excellent. Remove the fuel tank, contact breaker point cover, and tappet hole caps. Then it goes straight on to say, use a thickness gauge and measure the valve tappet clearance. Well, there's quite a big chunk missing from that. We need to know what to do with the crankshaft to get the pistons in exactly the right position for each valve clearance check. They need to be off cam to do the clearance check. Now, it does say down here, refer to pages 42 and 43 for more information. So, we're going to flick across to the section that covers engine. There we go, look, and we are currently on page 42. Excellent. Okay, now, 3. After assembling cylinder head, the valve tappet clearance should be performed to assure proper clearance in the following manner. A. While slowly rotating the crankshaft clockwise, see the arrow. Where's an arrow? Do you see an arrow on there? I don't see an arrow. Anyway, not to worry, we'll carry on. Obviously the arrow guy was taking the day off that day. Watch the cylinder number 1 inlet valve tappet. Okay, when the tappet retracts all the way and then starts to rise, watch for the alignment of the timing index mark and the T mark. Just there, look. And you'll see that in previous videos when we did the electronic ignition conversion as well. Once we've got that lined up, it says we can check the cylinders 1 and 4. Check the 1 and 4 cylinder mark. In this position, the number 1 cylinder piston will be at top dead center of the compression stroke, and both the inlet and exhaust valves in that cylinder should be fully closed. The valve tappet clearances of the valves marked with the O in the table on the next page can be checked. And that's the table. So when we've got it lined up with piston TDC number 1, we can do the inlet and the exhaust of cylinder 1. We can also do the exhaust on cylinder number 2 and the inlet on cylinder number 3. Excellent. Okay, well I think it's about time to head over to the bike and we can get those covers taken off, can't we? Right, said Fred. Behind here is where all the magic happens. And this is where we were when we installed the electronic ignition, so you'll get another look at that now. Right, unfortunately the thread on the bottom here has been damaged over the years, so it's a little bit difficult to get this out. Somebody's tried to repair it with some liquid metal, but it's not ideal. Right, that's now done. Let's get those caps taken off for the valves. What we'll do is we'll whiz them all off now and then they're out of the way. And they shouldn't be very tight. They're only put on as a snug fit, but we'll cover that a bit later on. And notice that the chrome caps are the outer caps for cylinders 1 and 4, and the dull, non-chromed caps, just the aluminium finish, are the caps for the inside two cylinders. Now, valve clearances should be done every 3,000 miles on this bike, according to the service manual, but it's always a good idea to check them on a regular basis, especially if you like to rev the engines hard. It tends to cause a bit more wear. Now, that's a bit difficult, isn't it? That cable's in the way, so forgive me. You're going to get a lot of fingers and stuff in the camera. Jeez, that was a bit tight. Okay, there we go. Look. Super job. Right, I'll get the other side pulled off and we'll carry on. Right, last cap. This is cylinder number 1, by the way, which is the leftmost cylinder as you sat on the bike. Then it's 2, 3, and then 4. Oh my word. Right, this one looks pretty chewed up. So, rather than use the bihex ring on the spanner, we'll use a socket, there, look, which is a single hex, and that should basically grip onto that quite well. Hopefully, he says. Oh, there we go, look. Wasn't too tight, fortunately. I'll get Alan to order a new one of these because, well, somebody's chewed that up, haven't they? Not good. Right, it says in the service manual to rotate the crankshaft clockwise until such time that this tappet, here look, goes down and then starts to rise. And as it starts to rise, we've got to look for the T mark on the actual ignition timing on the disc at the end of the crankshaft. So, you watch for that, give me a shout when we get there. Right, we're turning the crank clockwise. So we're looking at the intake valve on number 1 cylinder. There we go, look, it's going down now. Excellent stuff. All the way down, valve fully open. And he's starting to rise. Okay, right, let's have a look for that T mark. Okay, if we just go back a fraction just to show you something. We are currently, there look, cylinders 2 and 3, so we need to keep going until we see the T for cylinders 1 and 4. See if we can do this a bit different so it's not going to impede the camera. There we go, look. Keep your eyes peeled. Oh, we've got some marks coming up. Okay, cylinders 1 and 4 going past the firing mark for static timing, and now we're on T for top dead center, and that tells us the pistons are on top dead center in cylinders 1 and 4, but it's on the compression stroke of cylinder 1, which means that valve should now have clearance, so we can check it. Okay, so the engine is now positioned exactly in the right position to do cylinder number 1, intake and exhaust valves. Cylinder number 2, what was it? Exhaust valve, and cylinder number 3, intake valve, according to the table. Now to do this, you're going to need some feeler gauges, and the spec for the clearance on the intake valve, which is, it's normally a range on bikes, but on this one it's not. They're just giving you a single figure. It needs to be 0.05 millimeters, or what is it, 0.02 of an inch. I don't work in English imperial stuff. I work in metric. I've been brought up in the metric system, so we'll stick to that. Right, let's see if we've got the right feeler gauge. Okay, 0.05. And you also want to give these things a bit of a wipe every now and again as well, because you want to keep nice and clean. There we go, look, can you see that? 0.05 millimeters. That's the one we need. Okay, I took all these away. Let's head over to the bike and see how far out we are. Good job. Okay, let's just double check we've got some clearance, then we know we're right. Yes, we do. Only a little bit, but it really isn't a lot, is it? 0.005 of a mil. Okay, so we're going to put the feeler gauge in between, very hard for you guys to see unfortunately, in between the adjuster bolt and the top of the valve. And you can see that or not, but that's actually quite a slack fit. Now don't forget, valve clearance must always be done at sort of room temperature with the engine cold. This bike hasn't been started for a few weeks, so it really is quite cold. Okay, we need to make an adjustment, and to do that we need to slacken off this lock nut and get a screwdriver and just turn that very slightly clockwise, nip this up and check it again. But these are minute adjustments. Right, I don't really want to lose the current location of the adjustment nuts, so I'm just going to put my ring spanner on there, 10 mil by the way, and I'm going to hold that adjuster still, hopefully, whilst I crack off that lock nut. And the lock nut shouldn't be massively tight, to be honest. Jeez, okay. Right, that's now slackened off. We'll adjust it very slightly, and we're going to nip it up. Not over tight, we're not doing the final tweak. Let's see what we're like for clearance now. And it should just be a light drag on the feeler gauge. And that's not actually going in at all. It's too tight now, so we need to back it off and have another go. And that's okay, because doing this kind of thing, it really is a minute adjustment. Now some people will actually put the feeler gauge in the gap. They'll back this right off, put the feeler gauge in, and then adjust it up to the feeler gauge. I don't like to do that. Straighten that feeler gauge out, Mr. Young. Still a little bit tight. Okay. Let's just slacken it off a bit more. It really is a minute adjustment, because we don't have a range on this particular bike. Normally you get a range on valve clearance adjustments that, you know, it should be, I don't know, 0.04 to 0.06, but in this case they just give you a set amount. Nope, still a bit tight. Patience is what it's all about, just getting them absolutely bang on. Nope, still not going in between the gap between the adjuster bolt and the top of the valve, so we need to do it slightly more. Let's try that. I have a hunch we might be there. Oh, there we go. Right. There is very slight drag. You can see that in the vibrations on the actual gauge, the feeler gauge itself. Very slight drag on there. So we have closed it up a little bit, and I'm quite happy with that. That's that one done. So now we need to lock it off. slightly more torque on that adjuster, on the lock nut. So holding the adjuster screw stationary with the screwdriver. There we go. That should be enough. Doesn't want to be massively tight. Perfect. I like that. We can now do the exhaust clearance of the same cylinder, cylinder number 1, as per the manual. What was the spec? I forget. Ah, there we are, look. 0.08 millimeters. Have I got a feeler gauge of that size? Let's have a look. I don't think I have. No, I've got 0.03, so we'll have to marry that up to the 0.05, and between the two of them, they'll give us the right thickness, won't they? Perfect. Right, back to the bike. Right, let's move that plug cap out of the way. Okay, 0.08 millimeters. If you've got a single feeler gauge that'll do that, even better. I don't, actually. I've got to use these two together, so makes it slightly more fiddly, but it's all right. You just turn up the patience levels and you're all good. Yeah, it's just a little bit tight. It is, he says, it is. Okay, so same principle. We'll just crack off that lock nut, but try to hold the actual adjuster in position. There we go. Okay, so we're going to open it up a fraction and then tweak it back down. You have to tweak them back down in between, because when you tighten that nut up, believe it or not, it actually raises up the adjuster and increases the clearance slightly. So if you try and adjust it with it loose and then tweak it up, you'll end up with a bigger clearance. And then it'll rattle, and then you'll have to do it all over again. I don't think we were far off. It was sort of going halfway. No, a bit more, I think. Let's try that. It just takes a while. It's not a 5-minute job, this. And to think that you got to check these. Oh, there we are, look. Right. There is a little bit of drag. I would prefer that to be slightly more. See if we can give it a slight tweak up without dropping the feeler gauge out. Way too much. Okay, how's that feel? Slightly more. Try that. Looking pretty good. I've got to be conscious that there is a little bend in the feeler gauge, and that's obviously going to cause it to jam, so a little bit more, I would say. I have been told by a lot of these Honda owners that they often set the valve clearances slightly more than spec for some reason. Ah, right, now that is too tight. We've overcooked it now, so we'll just go back a little bit. There we go. Very happy with that. So we'll do the final lock off. Don't go gorilla. There we go, look. Beautiful. Very happy with that. Okay, back to the bench. Well, that wasn't too difficult, really, was it? So we've now done the valve clearances, intake and exhaust valve on cylinder number 1. We can also, without moving the engine at all, the crankshaft, we can do, what was it, the exhaust valve clearance on cylinder number 2 and the intake valve clearance on cylinder number 3. At this point in time, we can't do anything on cylinder number 4. So I'll crack on, get those adjusted, and then we'll get to a point where we need to rotate the crankshaft again to the next position to do the remaining 4 valves. Right, you guys have a listen to what Toolgirl Holly has to say. See you shortly.
Hey guys, it's Toolgirl Holly here. Now's the time to grab your anti-mechanic mug. You can find that on the Zazzle website, just up the top here. Once you do, you can take a selfie with it and send it to antimechanic@live.co.uk. That'll throw you in the draw to win some really cool stuff, including forge gear, ting tools, and the anti-mechanic personalised jacket. Draw will be drawn on December 2020. Signing off, Toolgirl Holly.
Ta-da! That's those 4 valve clearances all done. So we're at the point now where we can rotate the crankshaft, but let's take a quick look at the manual and see exactly what needs to be done, just so we're right. Okay, so we've made the adjustments on those other 4 valves. Always recheck your clearances, which I've done. Next, turn the crankshaft 360 degrees. This will put number 4 piston into top dead center of the compression stroke and will permit the checking of the remaining valve tappet clearances marked X in the table above. Super. So we'll be able to do cylinder number 2 intake, cylinder number 3 exhaust, and both valve clearances on cylinder number 4. That's the furthest to the right cylinder as you sat on the bike. Just for clarification. Okay, back to the bike. Okay, now we can turn the crankshaft 360 degrees so we can check the other valves. Easy really, isn't it? Oops, sorry camera. My bad. So we're going past cylinders 2, 3, top dead center. We've got to go back round to where we were before. Remember, the camshaft turns at half the speed of the crankshaft on a 4-stroke engine. So that should help to clarify things. There we go, look. Cylinders 1 and 4 coming up. Going past the firing mark, just there, and then back to top dead center. Cool. Right, I'll do one more valve with you. I think you've got the idea of it now. So this is the intake valve of number 4 cylinder. That's the furthest to the right, just to say that again because people get confused. Okay, now working around the camera, just to try, I'm trying to show you exactly where the feeler gauge goes. It's just under there, look, between the bottom of that adjuster screw and the top of the valve itself. And hopefully we can wiggle that in there. It's such a thin feeler gauge that it's actually quite difficult to get to start. There you go. How's that for camera work, eh? Pretty good. Okay, it does seem a little tight. So we'll leave that down there. That's sort of trapped at the moment. And we'll do the same thing again. We're going to crack off that lock nut, avoiding the camera if all possible. We're going to hold the adjuster in position. We're going to crack that off anti-clockwise. Jeez, that's tight. There we go. Now remember, it was tight, so we need to turn the adjuster anti-clockwise slightly, and then just snug it back up. We're not going gorilla. And let's see if we've got any kind of movement now on that. No, it doesn't want to go in, does it? Still a bit tight. Okay, no problem. That's what adjustment's all about. Right, so we'll do the same thing. We'll just hold the adjuster, slacken off the lock nut, turn the adjuster slightly more anti-clockwise, nip up the lock nut again, and see where we are. Ah, that's better. Okay, so I would say a little bit more, little bit more drag. So we need to close that adjustment back up again. We're just slightly overshot, but only slightly. So again, we'll hold that in position, undo the lock nut, turn it slightly clockwise, and nip it up. And that was a minute amount. Probably even see that on the camera. And look at the difference. Now it's too tight. This is what we're talking about. It really is critical. Bear with me. Let's see how that is. Oh, still a little bit too tight. Honestly, it's like train spotting this, isn't it? Right. It's not rocket science there. We're back to where we started. Okay, I'm going to go for the smallest adjustment possible. You can tell this hasn't been edited, can't you? Okay. There. Let's try that. Oh, too tight again. Oh my word. Honestly. Still too tight. Okay. Not happy with that. I need to go tighter. Oh, that feels better. You see how the feeler gauge just vibrates a bit as it's going in? There's a little bit of drag coming out. I'm happy with that. I'm going to sign that one off. So we'll give it a final nip. Be sure to hold the adjuster in place. There we go. Double check. Always double check. Perfect. Hasn't changed. Excellent. Right. That's done. Back to the bench. Cold coffee. Always. So, still 3 more valve clearances to do on this particular bike. I've still got the exhaust clearance to do on number 4. Sorry, cylinder number 4, obviously the exhaust valve. I've also got, the exhaust valve on number 3 and the intake on cylinder number 2. And then they're all done. No need to go through every single valve clearance with you on this video. I'm pretty sure you've got the idea of how to do it now. So, one thing I would point out is you do need a good torch, especially if you've got eyesight like mine. I actually found myself using the screen of the camera to do some of the work because it naturally sort of zooms in. Very useful. And you know, you might find the same thing if you've got terrible eyesight like mine. It's to do with the age. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, and there's a huge series now of videos covering work on this CB750, and there's still a few more to go. We're not far off finishing the job, the project, and then it goes back to Alan. I've still got tyres to fit, a new ignition switch to fit. I've got all the headlight wiring to put back together. It's had extensive work done, the wiring harness. It's got new dyno coils on there, ignition coils. We've done the electronic ignition swap as well. So we've got rid of the old points and condensers. Lots of work actually. What else have we done? Oh, front brake as well. Lots of work on the front brake, lots of new parts on that because the pivot was badly worn. Anyway, why not subscribe to the channel? Click on subscribe, ring the bell, and our friends at YouTube will send you an email as and when I upload any new videos. And there's usually maybe one every week. Plus, we do a live stream every Sunday morning at 8:30 AM. That's New Zealand time. So, you know, if you've got any questions, join in with that. And it's, you know, I'll do what I can to help. You'll also find me on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Feel free to communicate through any of those portals, or if you like, you can just send me a regular old email, and my email address is down the bottom. Now, also, if you'd like to support the channel, which will be most grateful if you do, you can go on to Patreon, or you can send a direct payment through on PayPal. Even $1 really helps at this end. You know, it allows me to buy different projects, you know, the bikes and of course the parts and bits and pieces to do the work. Lastly, thank you very much for watching and for making it this far. Any comments, give us a thumbs up, and you know, it all helps with the old YouTube algorithm. Okay, crew, well, until next time, cheers, over and out. And we get the flip again.
Oh!
Ha ha ha!